Buying your first home is a massive milestone, and getting a mortgage is one of the biggest financial commitments you'll ever make. But here's something a lot of people don't realise. Once you've got the keys and you've moved in, it can feel like the hard part's all over. And yes, of course, it is a huge achievement. But when it comes to your mortgage, it's not quite job done. Because securing a new deal when your current one ends can be just as important as choosing the mortgage in the first place. And it can end up costing you, or indeed saving you, thousands of pounds over the life of your mortgage. So in this First Home Focus series, we're here to bust some of the common myths, give you the lowdown on your options, and help you feel confident about what your next step should be, whether that's staying put, switching, or exploring something new. Buying your first home was a big milestone, but it's when your current mortgage deal comes to an end when you can really start to save money and take control. In this episode, I'm joined by Simon Farrell-Roberts. Simon is head of mortgage lending at Skipton Building Society, and he's going to help you understand what it means, how it works, and what to look out for when it's time to switch. Simon, so remortgaging, let's just kick things off if we could and define what is remortgaging.
So remortgaging, a lot of people seem to think it's a complicated process when actually it's quite straightforward and lenders are here to help.
So when does it happen? When does somebody need to start thinking about it?
Customers need to start thinking about it at the time ahead of their existing product expiring. So often their deal will come to an end, and I would suggest 2 to 3 months before that they start to think about what's on offer.
Okay. And can you just kind of talk us through the process? Because it sounds quite complex. I know you're there to help them through, but just talk us through the different steps.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I'd be asking to think about the product that you're on. Is it a fixed product? What's the balance that you owe on the mortgage? And what's the remaining term? And then you can start to think about speaking to the lender to determine if you want to review the product, the term, make overpayments, reduce your payments, or actually increase the amount you want to borrow, perhaps for some home improvements.
So there's actually quite a lot of flexibility at that point.
Absolutely, yeah. The mortgage needs to work for you as a customer. So it's really important that you think about the flexibility you want and how you want to operate that mortgage.
Yeah. So let's imagine your deal's coming up in expiring in 3 months' time. You're looking to remortgage. You're going to approach your lender. How should you prepare for that? What do you need?
I think it's really important to really understand the product that you're on. So start to think about, did I choose a fixed product and is that coming to the end? Taking no action wouldn't be a great thing to do because you could end up reverting to the lender's reversionary rates.
Yes, you've got to do something.
Absolutely. So I'd start with looking at your mortgage statement, starting to look at your outstanding balance, starting to look at the product, whether it's fixed or whether it's variable, and then thinking about the term, and then starting to really understand your circumstances. So what's changed in your life?
Yeah.
You might have had a pay rise, you may have extended family, your priorities may be to downsize or reduce payment. And this is a really pivotal point to think about, is this mortgage working for me?
Yeah. Would you say that there are any kind of pitfalls or common mistakes that people tend to come up against?
Yeah, I'd say probably the most common mistake is people leaving it a little bit too late. And that could mean that they fall onto a variable rate. Variable rates are often higher than the product that they're on. And then another mistake, perhaps thinking purely about the headline rate. And I would encourage people to think beyond the rate, think about the flexibility they're looking for, whether they want to make overpayments, extend or reduce the term, or whether there's actually any home improvements or additional funds they want to do.
I wanted to ask about that, how people should compare deals, because there's a lot of flexibility and there's a lot of variables.
Yeah, look beyond the interest rate and consider the other variables that are important to you. So your ability to be flexible, to overpay, to be able to have greater accessibility.
Yeah.
And how you want to manage the account, I think, is really important. I think it's about making the mortgage work for you.
What about fees and valuation charges and things like that? Do they come into play in a remortgage situation?
They can. I think it's important, again, to think beyond just the headline rate and consider the overall cost of the mortgage. There are often fees, so valuation, conveyancing fees, or arrangement fees, and they can be costed into the product. So I think it's really important to look at your personal circumstances and think about what you want from your mortgage during the next 2, 5, 10 years in order that the mortgage works for you.
And how does Skipton help people through that process?
By making it simple and personal. Our team's here to guide you through the process, help you understand the timeline, and make you feel comfortable and confident that remortgaging can be straightforward.
So is it a myth that it's a complicated process? Because it feels complex.
Yeah, I understand the myth. It is a simple and straightforward process. People often think it's complex and risky, and it's not, and it doesn't have to be.
Thank you, Si. So there you have it. So long as you deal with it early enough, it's not actually that complicated to remortgage, and Skipton are very much on hand to help you through the process. You could lose your home if you don't keep up your mortgage repayments.